I want to learn from the source.
Know the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist.
What if my client happens to have a busted knee or a bad back, or they're pregnant, or they're 90 years old? Like, I need to be able to bend the rules a little bit.
Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast, a show to share stories, insights, and experiences in strength, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I'm Michael Krakowski, host of the Strength Connection, and I'm so grateful that you can join me today. So in these episodes, I connect with some of the most inspiring and successful individuals to chop it up and learn from true life experiences that have helped them become who they are, the strongest versions of themselves. One of the greatest ways I've always learned the most important lessons is through stories. We all have them, and they make us who we are. So let's dive in. Here we go. What's up, guys? So I love when people take different passions they have and figure out a way to infuse them together. And that is what Anna Clark has done with NeXa Studios in New York City. Anna's a strong first kettlebell instructor, as well as a master Pilates instructor and the founder of NeXa Studios. So as a professional dancer, Anna found her strength place with Pilates and yoga. Then after finding hardstyle kettlebell training, she found a way to weave all these modalities together for her community, which is a community of over 6,000 people. So an absolute blast of a conversation. Anna's so straightforward and to the point in how she views strength. I absolutely loved it. So with that, let's get right to it. Before we do, please show the support for the show. Make sure you subscribe and rate the podcast wherever you're listening. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Strength Connection, for more. All right, your support means everything to me, guys. I sincerely appreciate you. Thank you very much. Now let's get on with the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Anna Clark, thanks for joining me. It's nice to meet you.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
No doubt. Shout out to John Morgan. He told me about the work that you do with NeXa and, kind of following you. So I really appreciate you taking the time. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. Big up, John. Thank you also for the recommendation, sir. He's awesome.
Yeah. So,
following in his footsteps, hopefully.
No doubt. So how do you know John? Do you guys do a cert together?
We did a cert together. Yes. That's the only way I meet any boys in the fitness industry whatsoever. Okay. We'll get into that later, but it's just because women dominate my side of the industry in the Pilates and yoga world. So it's nice to have just male energy in the room in any facet, you know?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But I think he was in my SFG1 and SFG2 cert, which had quite a lot of people. It's pre-COVID. So there might've been 200 people in that cert. Okay. And in a studio in New York City, that's it's no small order to stuff that many people into one space. So
that's awesome. Oh, I love big certs. It's so much fun. You get such an eclectic group of coming together. My first RKC was in 2010. So I think we had like 75, 80 people that were going through and attending at the time. And there was probably like another 25 instructors there. So it was over 100 people with it. So those big events are just, it's definitely life-changing.
So you were at RKC, was that before Pavel switched over, started Strong First?
Yeah, so I heard about all this type of work from like the FMS world with Brett Jones and Gray Cook. And then Brett came and did a FMS level 2 at the place I was working at in my hometown. And he was a master RKC at the time, which was the original work that Pavel did. And we started chatting about it. And that's when it was the RKC. And then I think it was 2012 was when Pavel split and built Strong First from the RKC and went into that world. So it's interesting because I didn't go through SFG level 1 ever until I assisted just a couple of years ago. Because we got grandfathered in when we went over to the other spot. So I saw the differences of how things were run from a dozen years ago to now, because it was like militaristic back then. It was like it
evolved a whole lot.
Oh, it's just more of we would hear alarms that went off, like where they would have like a timer. And if Pavel was teaching or anybody else was teaching at all, like you heard a timer go off, you had to run to a bell and do like 10 or 20 swings, and then you ran back. So you were always waiting to hear like an alarm go off, and you had to go and run and do like swings. So it kind of had a little bit of a boot camp feel.
Like a military style training.
It was.
I like that. It keeps you up on your toes. It's like, let's go. You're not sitting around with a notebook just falling asleep.
It was. What's interesting, and is I think the last certification that they ever did where the snatch test was the first thing that you did. So that before it was you kind of did introductions. Everybody was in a big circle. Everybody kind of introduced themselves, and then Pavel says, all right, comrades, grab a bell and go outside, and you're about to do your snatch test, line up, and then just roll from there. But what happened actually in that time was we had a guy who was in my group who, like, on his 90 something rep, dislocated his shoulder or had a bad shoulder injury. And then I think from kind of recognizing that, they realized that a lot of people didn't have good technique going in. That's when they switched it over to the third day so they could work with people a lot more on that testing.
Because of that guy.
It could have been, yeah. I might be speaking out of school on this and stuff, but I remember that very vividly. And I said, I was so happy that. We'll get right back to this episode, but first I want to tell you about Nabosu Technology. Nabosu is the leading company in foot care products created by the top functional podiatrist and human movement specialist, Dr. Emily Splickle and her team. Our feet are a connection to the earth and the foundation of all human movement, and it's often the most overlooked part of our body when it comes to health, fitness, and recovery. Personally, I never thought much of how the foot impacts my movement and strength until years ago when I found my intense sciatic pain I was dealing with was coming from a locked up midfoot and ankle issue. So after putting emphasis on this, my pain subsided completely. And since then, I've made sure to take care of my feet before anything else in training. I use the Nabosu NeuroBall every day, whether I'm training or not, and I felt significantly better in both my barefoot strength training as well as running outside on grass and on pavement. Nabosu has the best products on the market, including the NeuroBall, recovery socks, splays, activation insoles, and the kinesis boards and mats. So to check out Nabosu Technology, click on the link in the comments or go to nabosutechnology.com and use the code CONNECTION and get an additional 10% off your purchase. Again, that's the code CONNECTION. Use it to get 10% off. All right, now let's get back to it. I went before him and was recovering from it, because to see that and then have to go do a snatch test afterwards is probably a little bit of a mental mind fuck from there. But rough.
It was a very different type of certification for me, because I come from a Pilates and yoga background where all the certs, they're incredibly hands-on and they have a high attention to detail the way that Strong First does, but they actually teach you everything from zero as if you've never come into the studio before. And at Strong First, you came in and they expected you, like the big six, they expected you to understand the mechanics of a clean and the mechanics of a snatch. And by day 3, if you're going to do 100 snatches in 5 minutes, you better have damn well been practicing for months prior and had a trainer prior and had the really solid understanding of how to use a bell. So I did not know that. I was in the Pilates studio in the back at Equinox, and I had a buddy that was showing me kettlebells, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna get certified.
Oh, wow. Oh, you're one of those that jumped right in.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I love certifications. Like, sure. I just want to pile on more knowledge. And so I was like, I'm going to go there and learn how to do this. And I did not realize that you have to learn how to do it and then show up and show off your skills. Even though, like, it was incredibly comprehensive. I have nothing negative to say about it, except for that I was unprepared. Like, I did not know it was going to be like that at all.
Yeah. What was that experience like then? Were you able to get through the weekend, or did you have to do more afterwards?
Actually,
to finish up everything?
The first SFG one I injured myself on day 2. So I threw out I pulled the cleans, right? I hated cleans for my first year. I didn't get the point. I was muscling the bell up the whole time. It was all biceps, and a lot of my work in Pilates and yoga for the longest time was what you would consider grinds. Like, there's nothing ballistic about it. And I hate cardio. Like, I always like to joke, I'd rather be fat than be cardio, I'm just more interested in making pretty show. Like, I have a dance background, so I like
everything's
the
beautiful
and
graceful. Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm not sprinting marathons, at least not right now. So unless I have to. So, so cleans is something that it requires power, and I just did not understand the concept. So I'm muscling the bell, and I eventually ended up hurting myself. So I had to retake the SFG one, and I really actually liked doing that a lot, because I had a solid year to practice. And I met this awesome community of people. Like I said, like a room that was not just ladies, doing pelvic tilts and talking about their feelings. And it was like dudes that were just like straight up. Like, I needed a little bit of that meathead mentality, I feel like, because of the decades that I had been in the dance community and then in the Pilates. It's a very natural progression for dancers to move into Pilates because there's so much overlap.
Yep.
But it can lean too heavily towards the side of like, oh, well, my back hurts today and let's just stretch. And,
Yeah.
I've never been that type of teacher, but I'm surrounded by it. And so it was refreshing to have a little of the meathead energy,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember I just talked with Megan Henry a little while ago. She's a mindset performance coach, and she calls it the savage and the sage. It's like we need to have both of those together. Like there's the creativity and the flow and like that type of energy. That's great. But like sometimes you need to go in there and you need to just have that savage in you of like go in and just, grind it out. And there is something about heavy weight and just really feeling what your strength can do. And when you feel a weight, give weight to your strength, it's a powerful thing. And so it's funny when you don't experience that a lot to go into that environment, all of a sudden it's almost like, whoa, it's like I was missing something here.
Yeah, totally. And it depends on what your background is. Like, I feel like maybe you talk to a couple other people that come from a solid personal training background or powerlifting background where they're just trying to pull hundreds of pounds off the floor. They could probably use a little bit more of our energy where we come in with heavy attention to detail and, why your hamstring's so tight and let's figure out this tendonitis you got going on or whatever it is where we excel, but I was missing some of that like heavy duty, like, let's just go energy.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite words is talking about harmony. I think it's a better word than balance, right? It's like, because if you are shifted so much to one side of something, like just getting a little taste of the other side and getting it a little bit more towards that baseline, like it's going to feel a lot more aligned. We all have both of the energies together. It's that creativity. And then it's also, you need that deep structure where you're going in and you're doing, some hard work. So yeah, I get it. I've kind of worked with both ends. I've had some people who just jumped in and, who have just jumped right into a certification like an SFG. And it is a little bit different because it's so attention to detail. Like I would tell people who, when I assisted, like, look, you've probably been training for this for a while. We're going to nitpick the shit out of you like that first day. And some people, you see that look of just like, oh my God, I feel like I've never done this before. Like I'm getting critiqued on every little thing. It's like, yeah, no, that's part of it. Like we're going to over teach you at the first step. And
that's awesome how they do that. I mean, there's a whole book this thick full of accessory exercises and what do they call it? Specialized something, like all those building blocks to actually get to the swing or the snatch or the plate. I was like, look at all these things. Cause you can't, if I have a client that walks in here for the first day, no body awareness, and they're just like, oh, I want to lift weights. Like, we're not going to start with a swing. There's no way, So I mean those 3 days where I was like, oh, dead stops and hike backs.
Exactly.
And oh, let's start with deadlifts. Let's start with a drill where you put your ass on the wall. Like that, those are awesome,
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think too, like when you over prepare for something too, probably the second time you can enjoy it a little bit differently as well. Like you can get so overlooked. Certifications I love and they're great, but if you go in so blind to it, then it's like you might just get into such an overload, like stimulus of trying to gather all the energy that you miss some of the fun and the joy, like you said, of just going and meeting new people that you're not around all the time. And then you get some different perspectives. You get to meet some new people that might really forge, a really cool bond.
Yeah. I think that it opened doors for me to a whole nother area of the fitness world, which is, I appreciate. And I mean, I don't want to give any kudos to Equinox because I don't love them for a lot of reasons, but at least that was an avenue that led me to kettlebells, that led me to Strong First. And then I was like, wow, look at all these people. Because I found like you said, a bit of a balance where these heavy duty meatheads are picking apart my form. Like you said, like they would take kind of a Pilates approach, I would say, because we have a really high attention to detail and they applied it to, let's pick up hundreds of pounds off the floor. I was like, yeah, cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, we're getting right into it. I want to back it up a little bit and know a little bit more about you and your background. Like you're an SFG too. You have your company, NeXa Studios, which is, Pilates as well as yoga. What was the first modality of movement that you did? Was this something that you started early on as a child, or was it something that you kind of got into later in life?
Well, I was like most little girls in America. I was a dancer. So that was my professional aspiration for many, many years. I didn't have any formal schooling education. I was homeschooled. So my only, like, our social outlet and the time of the day we got to leave the house and go do something cool was time to go dance. And so that just became like, that was life. Dance was life. So that brought me to New York City, me and my older sister, and we, we went for it. And by the time I graduated high school, I was like heavy duty into my professional dance career, but also, as just about everybody in the arts world knows, there's no way to pay rent like that. So I was like, all right, let me figure this out. I'm 18. What do I do? My dad's cut me off. And I was like, duh, movement. Like, this is what I want to do with my life. So I said, no college for me. Please just, like, let me go to Pilates school. My dad was like, fine. So that's that. I started teaching when I was 18. Okay. 20 years ago now.
So went from dance, and then the first modality of kind of training was in Pilates?
Yes. Yeah. So I found a school that I really liked, and there was what you do when you're in intensive dance programs is every time school lets out, or when everybody else is let out of school, you do these intense summer programs where you dance all day long, 8-9 hours a day, and all of those programs have embedded complementary stuff, like things that make your dancing better. And one of those things was Pilates. So most people in any semi-pro or professional dance space are going to be exposed to that at a very young age. I started at 13, and it was required. Like, you couldn't not do it because the risk of injury is so high,
Okay. Yeah. So there was a similarity kind of already. And so there's kind of a bridge from dance to Pilates immediately from there.
Yes. Yeah, yes. Okay. And anybody you talk to that's in that world is going to be like, yeah, either you're required to take classes, or you took it as a supplement, or you started in the teaching profession. There's always a parallel career within the arts world. So either people are going to go into movement discipline, or they're going to style hair, or they're going to do makeup, something that's related to putting you on stage and making you better at performance. Yeah.
Was there other modalities that you guys did too going into dance? Was there things like yoga, or like, I mean, they're so flexible, so I'm assuming there wasn't really like stretch classes or strength work. Was Pilates it?
Yeah, well, yoga, the thing is with yoga, it has quite a different goal than the rest of these modalities that we talk about. And it's gotten blended in with the rest of the fitness world since it's hit the West about 100 years ago, because people love the asana part of yoga, right? As we know, yoga is a spiritual practice, got 8 limbs to it. The goal of it is samadhi, which is self-realization. And this is very far away from being on stage performing. And one of the limbs, one of the steps to get to samadhi is to do asanas, which is postures, right? So you bend your body in this way and that, and to the point where your joints and your ligaments get so loose that you're able to sit and meditate for hours and hours and hours. This is why people like it so much. It doesn't. I wouldn't say that it improves your dance practice. Oh, that's rough. I feel like I'm
why is that rough?
Because it's there's so much overlap. So I guess because I'm not giving it proper credit. Like, it's a very different path, and it's different goals to why people practice yoga, or at least why it came about originally. But there is a strength component to it, but it's so leaning towards making you bendy and flexible, with the goal of having you sit for hours and hours without even remembering that you have a body. And we already do a lot of that in dance, and particularly in classical dance, which is what I was studying at the time. So in ballet, there's just so much stretch. So no, that wasn't a side.
So it's not really going to benefit as much of really improving your dance work of going into yoga versus doing something like Pilates.
Yes, because Pilates is a little bit more based on balance, like we were talking before, like balancing, in particular the 4 S's is a big thing in Pilates: strength, stretch, stamina, and stability, so that all your systems work congruently. All right, so a joint can function optimally, full range with its full strength, which is full power. You don't have the muscle that's overbearing the amount of mobility you have. You don't have it so mobile and no muscle. It's like a really solid balance, which is most beneficial if you want to be able to dance for 20 years without getting injured.
Right. Yeah. So you're early teachers in dance from there, because like I've heard kind of the stories of old school dance teachers that are really, really like tough and like disciplinary, specifically in like the city type stuff. How was your like experience with your early teachers in dance? Was it very kind of rigid and very structured, or was it a lot kind of more creative and a lot more flow?
I would say because my original discipline of choice was ballet, and this is like schools from the 90s, Joffrey Ballet. My sister was at the School of American Ballet, they're like old school, hardcore, like they crack you with the whip. It was incredibly structured. It's almost structured to the point where they would pull the joy out of it for you, because it's like your leg has to be here and your foot has to be bent like this and your turnout has to be past 180. And if you don't have your center splits, then get the fuck out of the room. Like, we don't want to see you, Some auditions that you could go to, they would just look at those things. They wouldn't even want to watch you go across the floor and do a combination to see what your stage presence is like, or to see what your, none of that. They just want to see what is your turnout? What do your feet look like? How high is your extension? How many times can you turn? Are you solid on point shoes for how many hours a day without getting blisters? And then you're either accepted or not. So, a heavy amount of structure.
It's kind of harsh, but at the same time, I kind of get it at the same time. It's tough because if you don't hit those kind of prerequisites and criteria and they send you home, it's not good. But at the same time, I can kind of understand, sometimes those things, we want to see these things first. And if you pass these first check marks, then, okay, now you'll go to the next stage. And I know that seems like kind of an old school thought process maybe nowadays in there, but it seems like it still has some merit if you're really trying to, achieve like a professional level.
It does make sense, I guess, in the respect that if you don't have these things, they know that eventually when you're going to get into a professional company, they're going to be like, sorry, this is not good enough. So they're saving you some grief, 5, 6, 10 years in, like, why don't you go ahead and head to college?
Right.
Because your extension is not where it needs to be.
Yeah, it was funny. My girlfriend tells me a story of one of her friends was in the Rockettes and was telling about the story of auditioning for the Rockettes, and they just line you up on the street and you have to be a certain height, and they just have everybody kind of start doing the kicks and they just start pulling people out from the street. And it's like, all right, everybody else, thank you so much. And go home. There's no hey, sorry, maybe next year. It's like, nope. All right. If we didn't pick you, I'm sorry, you go.
It could be the most minute detail. I had some of my girls, I have many trainers that work here at NeXa, and one of them was a Rockette for a few years. And she's beautiful, perfect body size, perfect leg extension. She didn't get injured the whole time. And then one year they just had too many redheads. And she's a redhead, and they were like, sorry.
Man, the arts is so tough with that, because you could be doing everything right, but you're just not what the person's looking. They're just not what the person's looking for. That's why they call it you need to get your big break and stuff like that, and kind of just get on the map. I totally understand where people are coming from that.
Yeah, it's rough, but that's why we have our parallel careers lined up, because you never know. It's gig to gig. And one day the next, everything changes,
Yeah. So then you got into Pilates. Now, where'd you start coaching when you got into that?
There's a school called Power Pilates that I worked at for several years, which I was grateful to find them, because they were straight down from the lineage. Joseph Pilates opened his studio right here on 8th Avenue in 56 in the 1920s, 1929, fresh off the boat from Germany. Oh. And he had that studio for 40 years. He lived in the back and he taught in the front every single day. And then Romanos Krasinowska, one of his students, took over for him after he passed. And then Romanos Krasinowska taught this guy named Bob Linkins, and that was my teacher at Power Pilates. So I'm grateful to have that just stack of knowledge coming down from generations. So exactly what Joe taught is what I learned. And that's kind of why I wanted to go through Strong first once I started digging into it, because I'm like, I want to learn from the source. There's this saying where you got to learn to wear a bra before you can rip it off. And I'm all for evolution and this intuitive learning and intuitive deciding where to move your training programs into. But without that basic alphabet, what are these movements? Why were they created? What are they for? What is the goal of each exercise? What is the goal of this client that came in? What is why am I working out today? Am I just in a bad mood? I want some alphabet to work from. So I found that really helpful to be at the source.
I love that. I love the analogy. This is the point in almost every podcast that I bring up the book Mastery. People are getting probably so pissed off at me from that, but I love that book that Robert Greene talks about because of the apprenticeship phase, where he says learning from the source, gaining knowledge right away before you start throwing out all the creative thoughts and your own intuition, which I love. Intuitive training is something I practice a lot, but you need to kind of graduate into that level. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very quick now, specifically for people who want to jump right to that and start creating their own plans and their own programs. And, you know, anytime I hear the word, I'm revolutionizing this new thing, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, like a lot of the stuff that you need, like we've found it before, you just need to go to the source. So I love that you found that from Pilates, and it seems like it was a very easy carryover right into Strong First.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I was itching for something new because the school I went through has so much structure that it's almost a little bit. We have a thing in our industry called the Pilates Police, and they will scour Instagram. They will look at any source they can find where somebody's doing something other than what Joseph Pilates set forth, and they'll be like, no, out the door. Like you're an imposter. You're not carrying on the method as it was meant to be. And it's like, yeah, okay. But like, I know there's these 1,000 exercises that he created within his lifetime, and they're awesome. And they can bring bodies to great balance and it help you achieve great things. And the ultimate goal to live your life with ease is what Pilates is all about, to be able to move and do whatever you want with ease. But there's also so much other shit you can do. What if my client happens to have a busted knee or a bad back, or they're pregnant, or they're 90 years old? Like, I need to be able to bend the rules a little bit, but here come the Pilates police to be like, you can't do that. So I think that it was so nice for me to find just something else where I could go. And I think that was another thing I really liked about Kettlebell community, is that they had a big old book of things that weren't the big six. Like, yeah, swings and cleans and snap, you can do them forever. You have the greatest, strongest body, but we can also do arm bars. We can also do bench presses, and we could also do pistol squats, and on and on and on and on, you know?
Yeah. You know, I remember I worked with Brett Jones assisting at a SFG2 down in Florida. And there was some talk, somebody was there, he was a great student, but he came more from like a GS background of like kettlebell sport, which is a very different movement base than hard style. And some people were kind of taught, something was going on where I don't think anybody was talking negatively about it, but almost kind of like putting hard style at like a superior level from it. And Brett came in, who's the director of education, is like, hey, I can appreciate all different styles. And then he demonstrated like a perfect like GS style snatch of it. It's like,
is that the kettlebell sport?
Yeah, it's kettlebell. Yeah, it's kettlebell sport. And it's you speak to anybody in that world. I spoke with Denis Vasilev and Lorna Kleinman, like the best of the best ever in it. And the work that you do, the work capacity of what it takes to be a high level competitor in that world is insane. You know, to be able to do a 10-minute snatch test, not putting the bell down, and you get one hand switch and you're doing 220 reps on there. Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Lord have mercy.
Yeah. And it's like, it's different from there. But I mean, there's like any modality, there's going to be the zealots that come in or be like, this is the only approach to go. It almost becomes a religion like that. And that's why I'd like talking to people like you, because I see the work that you've done of mixing different, you know, philosophies together, and it might work specifically, but what it is it's a mindset of like, yeah, there's other things that you can take from to bring into your practice, and you don't need to swallow the whole pill, you know, whole, but you can take other ideas from different people together from there.
Yeah. I guess that you're right. It's in every discipline that there's this dogmatic view of this is the only way. And then they knock on everybody that decides to evolve out of that. I don't know the origination of whether kettlebell sport or hard style. I'm assuming hard style was first, because that's Pavel's thing, and it came out of the training the army, and then it went into that later on. You
go into the history. Actually, Jamie Lewis did a podcast with me a while ago about the history of kettlebells, and the first kettlebell picture ever is from like 4,500 years ago. It's like, so it's like way past the 300 or 350 years from when it's like got popularized in Russia. It's like, this could go back farther than anything. You know,
I heard it was a measurement tool for the farmers to figure out how much grain they had in the bag. Have you heard that?
It could be. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, some of it was, I'm going to screw this up. I'd have to go back and paraphrase what Jamie said, but there was I think a Byzantine emperor who would carry with him 100-kilogram kettlebell and would do swings with it, like to keep trained for battle, because they were traveling all over the world, conquering things. So these were tools that the army was using to
They might have embellished that a little bit.
But probably. Yeah. It started with 50 and then exactly. And then just the telephone game throughout history came around and, and he was doing it with one arm as he was, as he was conquering a mountain and exactly, eating a live cow, like all this type of stuff going on. But it's like, the history behind all these things is, it's very vast, from there, but, to go back to it. Yeah. I've learned so much from hardstyle work. I've learned so much from talking with people in the GS world and the competition and the work that they do from there on technique, on mindset, on grit, on resilience. It's like you can take from so many of these different things. And if you do, I think what happened, I don't know, I'd be curious to think what you think of if somebody becomes kind of a zealot in that thought, it's because you were probably searching for something so long to help you. And then you found something and now you feel good. So you think that is the thing that everybody needs in their life. Oh,
why people become dogmatic about their discipline.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it really worked for their body in that time of need. And then they were like, this is the answer for everyone.
Yeah, it's like the intermittent fasting world of like, oh my God, like Lord everybody Almighty. Needs to do intermittent fasting. It's like, well, maybe it's because you just ate less food and that's why you drop weight. It's like, there's so many different factors, that can come into it.
Remember, did you see Rogan and Pavel, that interview they did a couple years back? And Pavel was just like, I feel so bad for the people in the nutrition industry because it is a labyrinth. There's genetic backgrounds, there's the gut biome of that day, there's your stress level, there's your thyroid, there's whatever, processed foods it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
It could be what you ate when you're 5. It's endless. So, and the intermittent fasting, absolutely. Did you just drop your caloric values? Did you switch over to eating more meats all day? Did you cut your carbs? Like, no one knows the answer. Yeah. I really don't know that anybody knows.
It is. That type of world is, I think, so hopeless in so many ways because there's just infinite amount of different possibilities. That's why, like you said, having a structure and learning the structure first is going to be so vital. So I can get understanding in the Pilates world, learn the 1,000 movements in there. But once you know those, it's my favorite quote from Carrie Campbell, know the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. It's like, so
Carrie Campbell?
Yeah. Carrie?
Okay. Yes, I do. Yeah, okay, that's cool. I didn't, did you interview Carrie Campbell?
Yeah, I know Carrie and Brian very well. Yeah.
Oh, who's Brian?
Brian Grasso, her husband.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Oh, cool. Yeah. So she was, I worked with her for many years at Power Pilates. If we're speaking about the same Carrie Campbell.
I think
Pilates instructor?
No, I think a different Carrie Campbell. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, you delved into this world before.
No doubt. No, I know Pilates from very afar, from stuff, but, so getting back, so into your coaching then, so you work with Pilates. So how long did you do Pilates before you found kind of the kettlebell world and the strong first world?
Oh, let's see. So I started teaching in 2003 and then I shifted in from Pilates into yoga in 2005, got certified 2009. So I gradually moved from Pilates into yoga realm but still doing both. And then I moved overseas. Like I said, I was in Senegal and West Africa for 5 years. And so that was zero equipment. There was no gyms, there was no nothing. It was whatever I could do with gravity and the floor and soft earth. So that was all Pilates and yoga. So kettlebells didn't come till I came back to the States 2015. Yeah. So it's been about 8 years.
Yeah. So when did you open your own studio now?
I have a good connection with a lot of my clients. And I had one particular woman that I had been training for many, many years since I first got into the industry. And she was a lady of leisure, so it was a new project of hers. It was completely her idea. I was still completely in my dance mind. I was running a dance company at the time and I was back and forth between Senegal and New York. And she was like, let's open a Pilates studio. And so I was like, shit, okay. It's very happenstance. I wish I had a inspiring story for you, but it just kind of just developed out of nowhere. She wanted a project to do because she doesn't work, and I was like, great. And I was her favorite trainer, so I was like, let's do it. So we put a business plan together, which we had neither of us had business experience. I've trained my entire life, and she was an ex real estate agent, and she was just like, let's put this and that together. So yeah, so we scoured the whole Upper West Side of Manhattan, and we found the perfect space, and we gutted it and built it out. We built showers and installed these giant TRX things, and bought, you know, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And we did everything a little bit backwards though, because we bit off more than we could chew. We were like, let's get this giant space, and everybody in the Upper West Side is going to come. And I remember telling her, like, a year before we opened, I was like, we should really do some marketing. We should let people know that we are going to be opening soon. And for some reason, her and her husband just thought like that
if you build
putting
it,
money to the, let's open the doors and let's have the most inviting space. And she was about like fresh flowers and make it smell like perfume. And we would paint the whole thing white. Like the whole studio was white. Doors white.
Like a nice clubhouse.
Yeah. It was kind of like the country house of Pilates for her. So in like a wealthy neighborhood. And so zero money was put towards marketing.
Okay.
And so we hired an awesome team. We had great trainers, we had managers, we had front desk staff, and we opened the doors on day one, and we're like, all right, now what? So I copied Equinox, and we put a table outside and a couple of pretty in shape girls. And that was it. You know, the rest is history. Now we have a 6,000 person client list, and we a couple thousand people walking here every month. So it ended up building, but it just I definitely, if I was going to give anybody advice, I would say don't do it the way that I did. Start small like you should, and build. Get a small space and grow and grow and grow. Yeah, as the demand requires.
It is the vision's exciting, right? Of like opening up the big space and seeing everything in there, but then that balance between that and the practicality of what you do, like there's a gap, to fill that space up from that. What were those early days like? Was it a stressful time, or was it really kind of enjoyable? You knew like, okay, I'm building this up and it's going step by step. What were those early days like for you?
Well, it was a huge learning curve for me. Because I like I said, I was homeschooled, and I have nothing but movement background. And so that is just my area of expertise. So I feel very confident in what I do. Like, you put a body in front of me and I can do what I do. But, you put contracts and, real estate agents and city laws, like we were down at City Hall on Chambers Street trying to figure out how we could get a shower in the basement. And you find out that 100 years ago, they had speakeasies and these happy ending massages. And for this reason, it's like the most difficult thing in the world to open a gym now, because they think you're going to be in the back, like doing something illegal, and which has nothing to do with fitness at all. But this is like one of the building blocks of like, how am I going to open what would be considered like a big box gym without going down to the mayor and rallying, hey, can I put a shower in my back of my place,
Oh, that's
so anyway, that was just, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is. It's so crazy of how different perspectives can just be in what you think. Like, you think, I'm just putting a shower in, but other people who like are some decision makers are like, they think something completely different. I talked to Todd Durkin not too long ago, and his book, The Impact Body Plan, like the word impact has been such a brand for him. And he told me, like, when he first brought that to a publisher, the publisher changed the title of the book to True Strength rather than Impact Body Plan, because he said impact means car crash. And I was like, oh my God, like, I didn't think of that at all. Like, I think impact, like, how can you make an impact?
Improving on somebody's life,
exactly,
or making a positive change.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's it's a lesson I always learned about coaching too, is just no matter what you do or the vision that you have about like something, like somebody else's mind or perspective of what they feel about strength or what they do might be completely different than yours. So you can't assume that a person knows what you're talking about, or what Pilates is, or how great your place is, or how good the flowers smell in the place. Like you gotta just work each person at a time. I remember when I used to manage a club, and I would manage the front desk, and it was a lot of like young kids that came in, like the front desk kids, and we would hire them, and like their job was really to be like the person that smiles at front. And I said, like, the best thing that you can do is greet them with a smile and be like a positive
be welcoming.
force. And I said, it's like, and I wrote down all the stats. I'm like, we have, 2,000 members in here. Like we have people who are coming in here from major rehabs, from knees and from heart and stuff like that. Like they're changing their lives when they're in here. They're spending hundreds of dollars a month to get their coaching, get their training. There's people that are doing unbelievable things in here. The trainers are amazing. But the brand new person that's just coming in for the first time knows nothing like that. All they know is you in front.
Yeah. If there's a sour face at the front, they're going to walk right out the door. Like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just kind of keeping that, like that focus of mind of just like, like every new person that you come, no matter how good you are, like treat them with like that just positive response, put a smile on it, just greet them in a nice way, because you never know what mindset that person is coming through your doors.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking a more holistic look at what is the entire gym. And half of it is that you want to have a good experience when you come in, and before you know your trainer, what is that good experience? So some gyms like this one is small enough where we've been able to build a community. So when we take the people that take classes, the group classes, they know each other, and they're like, oh, Susie's here and whatever. And they're talking about their kids while they're waiting for the class to start. Like that's part of them coming back every week, aside from that their trainer's good and that their injury feels better and their stomach is flatter. Like there's just so many aspects to this place being good, like how cold it is, like how long I run the AC or don't run the AC, or whether or not the toilet is stopped up from week to week, like things that I would never care about as a trainer. I am like full force attention to now. Like just the way I hire my friendess, like you said, like that's huge. I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I like when there's a pretty face there, it definitely helps. But also the fact that they smile is huge. The fact they remember people's names, oh, she gets a 10% discount. She doesn't. Like that's huge.
Yes. Oh my God. I love it. It's like hospitality is one of those things that's so exciting when you really dive into it. I think that's so great. And people need to understand that more specifically, and you have a brick and mortar business. So with your programming that you do, I mean, with all the different backgrounds that you do, from kettlebell work, from Pilates, from yoga, how do you intertwine these together in your place? Do you focus more on one specific modality versus another?
This is a loaded question, because that's like, since I left Equinox, I've just been delving into like how many different things I can mix up. And that was one of the things I was really adamant about when my business partner said she wanted to open a Pilates studio. I was like, no, let's open a gym. I was like, I want whatever people walk in the door. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to offer it, because like we were talking about, there isn't any one set discipline that's going to get everybody to their goal, because everybody comes in with 1,000 different goals, So, I liked the idea that some people really love their cardio. Like a lot of people will come in the door and be like, do you guys have Zumba? And, I don't teach Zumba, but I would love to offer it, and do you have TRX? Do you have kettlebells? Do you have Pilates? Do you have yoga? Do you have strength training? I mean, we even do physique competition now. It's just so many different modalities. And I feel like there's a different spice for everybody. And let me be a little more clear to answer your question. You said, how do I blend them? I guess I would say that probably one of the best lessons I learned from becoming a personal trainer versus a Pilates person is to figure out the person's goal. Whether it's me, like, okay, I'm Anna's Wednesday training. What is my goal today? Or what is my goal this month? And then when they first walk in the door, to figure out the why of why they came in. I had a great teacher. I did this, one of the very rare, come in and sit down at a school desk and learn how to be a personal trainer, as opposed to sitting with your NASM book and then taking a test online. I did this school thing where you went to Crunch Fitness every day, and you'd sit with this guy and he'd talk you through the personal training program. And he made us do these drills where we would convert the clients. It was like, turn somebody off the street into your client, make them buy a 20-pack from you. How are you going to do that? And the most valuable lesson he taught me, his name was Mike Alicia. He said, figure out the why they're there. And so we were all like, oh yeah, we were role playing. So we're making up different things. I want to lose 20 pounds. My lower back hurts. I just had a baby. I'm going on a vacation. I want to look good in a bathing suit. And he was like, no. Why are they really that's the surface goal. Okay. They want to lose 20 pounds. Why do they want to lose 20 pounds? What's going on in their life? Like, what's going on in their psyche? Is it that they feel bad every morning when they get up? Is it that their relationship is not going so well? Like these things where they would sit down and convert people into clients took a little bit of time, because they would therapize them a little bit. They would dig in and get to if you sat with me and figured out my real why of why I work out every day, like I'd probably be in tears with
100,
whatever is the real reason. So anyway, so I guess that would be how I would decide, am I going to throw kettlebells to this person, or TRX or Pilates, or are we just going to do calisthenics, or are we going to do rehab type stuff? I'm going to figure out what made them come here. Why me? Why NeXa? Why did you spend the money? Like, you took time out, your kids are at home, you're not making dinner tonight, you're here with me. Why? And then once I figure that out, then I'm going to make a soup of all the different, tools I have in my pocket to help you get to your why.
I love that. I really love that answer, because it's, asking why, like, just that next layer under I've done that for a long time, and it's so powerful, and it's an uncomfortable conversation with people to have. Like, you got to get comfortable asking that question. It's a challenging thing to do, but like, as a coach, once you actually sit back and not just say, why is it important? Just like throw it out there. Actually, as you just described there, like, you're not at home right now with your kids. Like, you actually came here out of your time. Like, you said yes to an appointment for a reason, and actually diving into it. And then once you find those reasons, then it's like, okay, I have these tools that we can bring into this to fit this reason a little bit more. It takes away from, oh, I go to a Pilates studio, or I go to a strength training spaces. This is my place that I go for my self-care. This is where I go for me, to really get strong.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I felt like we needed to have so many different offerings, because everybody's answer is going to be different for them, and plus, the school that I came from, as much as I love Pilates and will advocate for it forever and ever, it was so structured to the point where that wasn't one of the questions. Like, they taught us everything from zero to, you're an instructor now, go forth and find your clients. And one of the questions when they walked in the room, it was just like, have you done Pilates before? And do you have any injuries? It wasn't, why are you here? So we had like a cookie cutter goal for everybody. We're going to balance your 4 S's. That's what everybody's going to do. Strength, stretch, stamina, stability. Oh, I see you're stronger than you are flexible. We're going to work on your flexibility. Vice versa. You're too flexible, not strong enough. We're working on your strength. So I would decide the goal, or Pilates would decide their goal. And I never talked to them. Like, this is Kathy. This is what's going on with Kathy. She has 3 kids, blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't dig in. So I feel like that I learned so much from that program, where they were like, look at the person in front of you and teach them and bring them where they want to be. They spent, however much money to be here.
Yeah, that's great. That's so cool. You had that experience. It's that difference between transactional and transformational, right? It's like, in the fitness industry it's riddled with transactions. It's just this is our features and benefits. Look at our sauna, look at our studio. We're going to do the 4 S's. We're going to teach you the big 6, whatever it is. If you focus on just this specific modality, then maybe you'll get some people who heard about it from a friend who did it, and they're already kind of bought in, from there. But it's like, the people that I used to always laugh with stuff, like, I think I've literally had like 3 people in my career, like, ask me what my credentials were in like training before we actually started training, just because we had a good conversation, and we're just like, oh yeah, this is what we do. This is how we're going to help you from there. And it's like, I think that's the big thing about training and about being a coach, right? It's not about all the knowledge that you have. That's good. It builds competence and it builds confidence, but people hire you based on trust, and they hire you based on whether they believe in you and whether they think that you care about them.
Yeah. And if you're going to help them get where they want to go.
Yeah. So what's your training like now? What are you focusing on for yourself?
Well, I feel like I've overdid it a little bit with the no, zero. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of literally zero. That's probably one of my bigger problems 20 years in now, is that I see colleagues of mine that started when I did, and they're literally traveling around the world teaching workshops and things on one specific area. But if I were to ask them to show me like a TRX exercise, they would have no idea. So I'm spread very thin, and that's I don't know if that's a positive or not. Maybe it's got its pros and cons. But for my own training, I would say I have tried to hone in. Like, again, I'm a little bit of a Pavel geek, so I was listening to him, and he was saying like the simple and sinister and the minimalist. Like, just maybe there's one skill that you want to build on, and so when I'm coming in, like, okay, I'm finally done with my clients, I'm going to do my workout for an hour. And then I look around the room and like, if I could move my computer right now and show you the studio, there's just so much shit in here that I can get overwhelmed with, like, oh, I want to do all this stuff. So I've decided that I'm setting my mind on a specific skill. Like, I want to be able to do pull-ups with no assistance, so everything within that hour will be like, what upper body accessory drills can I do, supersets or whatever to get me towards pull-ups. And I'm preparing for a strong first body weight cert. So I'm doing all sorts of accessory exercises to get me to the one arm push-up,
Yep.
So stuff like that. So that way I can kind of tunnel my focus into one activity.
Yeah. It's tough. It's like, there's so many fun things that you can do out there. And I kind of enjoy that, like that jack of all trades, I think too. It's having different roles and kind of playing around with different things. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think you can kind of take from a lot of different, like we said, a lot of different modalities. I think that's the same thing with how you put communication out. You can do a podcast, you can write. I think both of those things can like balance each other out, and you can learn more in one thing that will help you with another. I think it's the same in strength training work from there. So Simple and Sinister is, I mean, it's one of the best books to do. I was training for Sinister for a long time. I'll probably go back to it at some point. Had a little injury that I needed to deal with from there, but yeah, that's definitely a blast. Yeah. So when are you doing SFB?
What month are we in? August. I think it's October.
Okay.
Something like that. So I have like a 3 months time span. And I tried to do this before like 6 months ago. And I egotistically was like, yeah, let me just look this up and I'll train my own accessories. And I also caught an injury and I was like, So I went back, which is another reason I'm so grateful that I got to go through SFG 1 twice and meet all these awesome team leaders and different trainers that are in my area, and then go through again and do SFG 2. Because I have like a support team. I feel like I have a community of people that I can reach out to. So I just called one of my people that I know is SFG elite. And I was like, how do I get to this one arm push-up? Please help me. Because I'm going to hurt myself on my own. Yeah. So I can appreciate that I know how much I don't know. And so, and the fact that I have people that I can ask for help is great. So now I have like a written program and I do this and then do this. So I can like laser tunnel my focus towards that.
Yeah, it's a weird movement to dial in, because it's not just like building just strength. Like if you need to do like your press test for an SFG2, you can just, I mean, if you work enough volume and work on your technique, you're going to get there eventually. The one arm push-up it's different. It's like, it's got a different type of just body connection and awareness from there. I learned so much when I went to SFB. I told Karen that all the time when I went and saw her. That was the most challenging on my body of any certification that I did before. Just because, it's so, I mean, you see this like from all your dance background in Pilates too. Like when you only have your body weight and you have to create tension, but you don't have an external thing like a barbell or a kettlebell that's forcing you to contract. Like neuromuscularly, it is a lot more challenging. Like
Interesting.
Oh yeah, because like you have to tense up your whole body, like by getting your mind to say, all right, body, like tighten everything up and you work it. So I learned more doing body weight stuff than I think any other certification. SFL learned so much as well, from there. I mean, it's a great system that they've built up, but yeah, body weight it's a different animal. I think you'll have a blast with that.
That's very interesting. I think you just taught me something, because one of the big corrections that my coach has given me is that I just overall am kind of loose and flowy, which you'll see a lot in Pilates and yoga. Like we advocate this huge breath, these long inhales and these long exhales. And my coach is like, no, like breath retention, like intra-abdominal pressure, short exhales. He's like tense up. He does those drills where you hit a plank and he just knocks you around. And I'm like, this is so counterintuitive from what I did for decades, So then what you're saying about pressing a bell and it kind of forces you to be tense, maybe that's why that comes more naturally to me than the body weight stuff.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, probably from your dance, from probably dance too, like from ballet, it's like you need to be strong in your movements, but you also need to show grace in it. So you can't have this softness, like tense, tight look. You need to be open. There was a guy I taught in SFG2 who said that, like, he was a former ballet dancer, and he said everything is about contraction and tense and tight, where ballet is everything open, like, and you're inviting everything from there. So it's like, it's so, contrast, in both of them together. So
100. Yeah. Because performance, you're literally giving yourself, like whatever it is, your movement to your audience versus like I'm studying Krav Maga right now. That's another one of my things that I'm kind of obsessed with, like 4 times a week in the Krav Maga. And a lot of it is about closing off to protect yourself. And it's just, it's polar opposite.
Yeah.
It's tension and it's hiding and it's backing off, is creating space versus being like, here you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For you guys,
Man, you dive into everything. You're diving into everything from Krav Maga into strong, like you go into deep mastery work.
Well, I want to learn so much stuff. And I've been attacked like anybody in New York. Like I've been attacked many times in the street, and I just decided, you know what, enough is enough. But it's pretty awesome. The school that I'm studying at, it's like smart. It's not even just like brute strength, like let's punch a bag for an hour. It's like, how can you just take somebody's thumb and break it off so that like they can't take your wallet because they're screaming in pain, So it's my new fascination. Like I love my kettlebells, but I kind of like, if I have an hour, I'm like, do I go to Krav or do I?
There you go. Oh man, that's great. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting when somebody is kind of a jack of all trades and almost like a professional student and dives so much in there. Like sometimes it can be you go so focused in on the knowledge work when you still have a business to run, you need to focus on your clients. And the fact that you kind of nonchalantly threw out there a 6,000, client base that you work with from there. Like that is a freaking huge number in there. So the success that you've had in the studio and the work that you did is so admirable and it's really awesome. So I really appreciate you taking the time in. This has been an absolute blast having you on. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you having me. If you need recommendations, man, there's mentors galore that you could talk to that tell you tons more than I will ever know about these things.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah. So if people want to like follow your work, kind of check out stuff, if they're in the city, want to check out NeXa, what's the best place that they can go and check you out?
Well, they can find us online. It's NeXa Studios.nyc. We're on Instagram, NeXa NYC. You can find me on Instagram. I'm the Anna Clark. And that's about it. That's the extent of my internet presence. I'm very much about like, I want you live in my space. I want hands on bodies where I can manipulate you and, have you right here.
That's great. Awesome. Anna, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Listeners, go follow Anna, check it out, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.